Right. Today we're diving into something a little different, something you might not expect. Stillness.
Stillness.
Yeah, not just like, sitting quietly, but stillness as like this secret ingredient for success and happiness, especially in our world. Which is anything but still, right?
Okay.
We're using Stillness as the Key by Ryan Holiday as our guide this time, along with some pretty amazing real-life stories.
Yeah, some good ones in there.
Get ready for some, like, serious aha moments.
Yeah.
Because I think stillness, it's not what we think it is.
It's fun, it's like this idea that pops up everywhere you look, like ancient philosophy, modern psychology. Everyone seems to agree, like stillness, it's valuable.
Okay.
But so few of us actually, achieve it.
Yeah.
And Holiday really hits on that paradox.
Oh, he does. And he doesn't let us off easy either. He quotes Blaise Pascal, who back in the 1600s, a while ago, said all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Kind of a gut punch, right? A little bit.
But think about it. How often are we truly still without distractions, without that constant mental chatter,
Yeah, it's tough. It's a struggle.
It is. Yeah.
And Holiday, he brings this to life with this story about JFK.
Oh, yeah.
During the Cuban Missile Crisis. Talk about a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
1962, the world on the brink of nuclear war, and everyone's telling Kennedy, launch a full-scale attack.
Yeah, just do it.
Do it now.
Push the button.
Right.
But he doesn't.
He doesn't.
And that's what's so striking about this story is that JFK actively created stillness even as everyone around him was like, go, go, go.
Yeah, go.
He didn't just sit there. He sought out diverse opinions. He took time to reflect. He even sketched, to clear his head.
Really?
Yeah. He literally stepped back from the chaos to gain perspective.
Wow.
And by doing that, he saw what others missed. Responding with force probably would have escalated things.
Maybe even triggered, the unthinkable.
Yeah.
His stillness allowed him to make a rational choice.
Yeah.
A naval blockade, giving Khrushchev, a chance to kind of back down.
Yeah.
And it literally saved the world.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. It's a masterclass in decision-making under pressure. But then Holiday takes us from world politics to the art world.
Oh, okay.
With Marina Abramovich.
Yeah.
I mean, this deep dive, it keeps you on your toes.
Yeah. So her performance, The Artist is Present, was radical. For 750 hours, she sat silently, making intense eye contact with strangers who took turns just sitting opposite her.
Wow.
It was all about presence, not just physical stillness, but emptying your mind, ignoring everything except that connection right there in that moment.
And people were profoundly affected by it. Some had emotional breakthroughs. Others felt a deep sense of peace, even a spiritual awakening,
Wow.
It makes you wonder, how often are we that present in our own lives?
Yeah.
Even with, the people we care about most. Are we really there? Or are we half listening, distracted by our phones and to-do lists?
Oh, for sure. It's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And, and it ties into Holiday's next point about, how we handle all this information constantly flooding our brains.
Right.
He brings up Napoleon, who had his secretary hold all his mail for 3 weeks.
What?
Before even opening it.
Oh, that's genius.
Right. He figured that, most things would just resolve themselves anyway.
He knew how to filter the noise. And avoid, getting sucked into the trivial drama.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And think about how that applies to us today.
Yeah.
We're drowning in information. News, social media, emails.
Oh, it's a lot.
It creates the CNN effect where we're just constantly reacting, feeling pressured to be in the know about everything, even if it's, totally unimportant in the long run.
Right.
Yeah.
It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Makes it so hard to think clearly, to focus on what truly matters. So, are we all supposed to go off the grid and live like hermits?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, again.
It's about being intentional. Choosing what we consume, when, and how much. Creating space for silence, for reflection, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Holiday, he uses this example of baseball player Sean Green, who found a way to do this even in, super high-pressure situations.
Oh, okay. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. So Green, he was in a terrible slump.
Yeah.
And he realized his overthinking was making it worse. And he was a Buddhist.
Okay.
And he decided to apply the concept of emptiness.
Emptiness.
When he stepped up to bat.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So emptiness doesn't mean blankness.
Right.
It's about clearing the mind of all the mental clutter, the doubts, anxieties, distractions. Green, he described it as achieving, like a childlike presence, just being fully in the moment of the game.
I like that.
And it worked. He broke out of the slump with a home run.
Wow.
So sometimes, it's not about trying harder. It's about letting go of that mental noise that's blocking us.
That's really powerful. It's a great example of how, emptying the mind can create space for breakthroughs. But then doesn't that contradict the idea of, deep thinking?
Right. So are we supposed to think or not think?
Yeah, good question.
What's the answer?
Well, Holiday uses Mr. Rogers
Okay.
to illustrate this point. Mr. Rogers, believe it or not, was a big proponent of quiet reflection. He famously said, "Just be quiet and think. It'll make all the difference in the world."
Wow.
So it's about both stillness and defocused thinking.
Okay, so it's like clearing the mental table first, then choosing what to put on it.
Right, exactly.
Okay. And one way Holiday suggests for doing that is journaling.
Oh, journaling, yeah.
It's not just for teenagers.
Right.
Journaling has been a tool for reflection and self-improvement for centuries. Think of Anne Frank, who even while hiding from the Nazis, found solace and clarity through writing in her diary. Journaling helps us process emotions, gain objectivity on our challenges. Ask those tough questions we often avoid.
Right.
Yeah, and it's backed by science. Studies show it can help with everything from trauma recovery to managing anxiety. It's like having a therapy session with yourself on paper.
It's a good way to put it.
And you don't have to write a novel. Even a few minutes a day can make a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's amazing how something so simple can be so powerful. And speaking of finding quiet space, Holiday takes us on this journey into the world of silence with composer John Cage.
Okay.
This is where things get a little wild.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So Cage was obsessed with silence, even going so far as to visit an anechoic chamber, one of the quietest places on Earth. And he discovered that even there, you can still hear the sounds of your own body.
Wait, so he's saying we make our own silence. That's mind-blowing.
Exactly, and this idea inspired his most famous composition, 4 minutes, 33 seconds.
Yeah.
It's a piece of uninterrupted silence. It challenges the audience to listen to the sounds they normally tune out, like the creaking of chairs, coughs, even the hum of the air conditioning.
So he's turning the concept of silence on its head.
Precisely.
Yeah.
He's saying silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the intentional act of listening.
That's a good one. Makes you think about all the opportunities we have to create silence in our own lives.
Yeah.
It doesn't require a soundproof booth.
Right.
It could be a walk in nature, time spent in a library.
Yeah.
Even just turning off the radio and embracing the quiet of our own homes.
Exactly. And it's in those moments of quiet that we might discover things we wouldn't otherwise hear.
Right.
The subtle truths that Holiday talks about, the whispers of intuition, or even just the sound of our own breath.
It's like tuning into a different frequency, one that's often drowned out by the noise of everyday life.
Exactly. Yeah, and speaking of tuning in, Holiday then dives into the concept of intellectual humility.
Okay.
Using Socrates.
Oh, Socrates, the guy who claimed to know nothing?
Yeah.
How is that wise?
I know, right? It's the paradox. But Socrates, he understood that true wisdom lies in recognizing the limits of our own knowledge.
Yeah.
He was constantly questioning, seeking out diverse perspectives, admitting when he was wrong.
That's so counter to how we often operate today, right?
Right.
Where everyone seems to have such a strong opinion about everything.
Yeah. It's refreshing to think that maybe the smartest approach is to admit we don't have all the answers.
Right.
Especially in this, age of information overload,
Yeah.
where it's so easy to fall into that trap of thinking we know everything.
Right.
Socrates reminds us that, true intelligence, it lies in being open to new ideas, seeking out mentors and teachers, and just constantly challenging our own beliefs.
Yeah, it's humbling, but also kind of liberating. Right. It frees us from the pressure of having to be right all the time and allows us to approach learning with a sense of curiosity and wonder.
Exactly.
And from the wisdom of Socrates, Holiday takes us to the battlefield,
Okay.
exploring the difference between true confidence and ego through the story of David and Goliath.
Oh, yeah. The classic.
It's not just a children's story. I mean, David, a young shepherd facing this giant warrior,
Yeah.
he embodies a kind of stillness that comes from true confidence, not arrogance. He knew his strengths, he trusted his skills, and he wasn't intimidated by Goliath's size or reputation.
Right.
He even refused the heavy armor offered to him, recognizing it wouldn't help him.
Wow.
He trusted his intuition, his agility, his connection to something larger than himself.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reminder that true confidence, it arises from a deep understanding of ourselves, not from trying to be someone we're not.
Right. And Goliath, blinded by his ego, he completely underestimated David.
Yeah, well, that's the thing with ego.
Yeah. It's a reminder that true confidence, it comes from a place of stillness, of knowing ourselves, not from trying to, like, puff ourselves up or whatever.
And it's not just about avoiding ego either. Holiday points out the dangers of the opposite. Imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
That feeling of inadequacy.
Yeah.
That can hold us back even when we're, capable and accomplished.
Yeah.
He used the example of Ulysses S. Grant, who faced incredible setbacks, including financial ruin, but never lost sight of his abilities.
Yeah, he had this quiet, unshakable self-belief that led him to become, a successful general and even president of the United States.
It's a reminder that true confidence, it lies somewhere between those extremes of ego and self-doubt.
Right.
It's about finding that sweet spot where we acknowledge our strengths and our limitations and approach challenges with, like, a clear-eyed, still-minded determination.
It's about recognizing that we don't need to be perfect. We just need to be present, self-aware, and willing to learn and grow from our experiences.
And speaking of learning, Holiday then introduces us to the world of Zen archery with Alakenzo,
Oh, cool.
a master archer who taught the importance of detaching from outcomes.
Detaching from outcomes.
Yeah. Now, this is fascinating. Kenzo, he encouraged his students to, let go of the desire to hit the target.
Wait, what? How can you succeed if you're not focused on the goal?
I know, right?
So strange.
It's a paradox.
Yeah.
But Kenzo, he believed that by detaching from the outcome, by finding stillness in the process of aiming and releasing the arrow, archers could actually perform better.
Really?
Yeah, so it's about trusting the process, not getting fixated on the end result.
Yeah, I can see that.
He believed it freed them from the anxiety of striving and allowed their true skill to emerge.
I like that a lot. I can see how that applies to so many things in life, not just archery.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have we choked under pressure because we were so focused on the outcome, on what other people would think, on whether we'd succeed or fail?
It's a good question to ask ourselves. Like, how much of our anxiety comes from our attachment to specific outcomes?
Right.
And how much freedom could we find by letting go of that need to control?
It's a big one. Yeah. And it leads us to this cautionary tale that Holiday presents, the story of Tiger Woods.
Okay, now this is where things take a kind of a more serious turn.
So Tiger Woods, one of the greatest golfers of all time.
Oh, yeah.
Achieved phenomenal success, but his personal life was filled with scandals and struggles, that ultimately affected his performance.
Right.
Yeah.
And Holiday, he digs into Tiger's childhood, specifically his relationship with his father, Earl, who pushed him relentlessly, instilling in him this drive for excellence, but also, kind of exposing him to these unhealthy lessons about masculinity and suppressing emotions.
Yeah.
There's even a story about, like, a code word Tiger could use if his father's training became too intense. The word enough.
Wow. So he wasn't even allowed to, like, set boundaries,
Yeah.
acknowledge his own limits.
Yeah. It's kind of heartbreaking. It is.
Yeah.
He
was taught that enough was like a sign of weakness.
Yeah.
Something that only losers said. And you see how that played out in his adult life. He was this master of control on the golf course, but struggled to, like, manage his personal life. Makes you think, what's the point of achieving great things if you're miserable?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Holiday suggests that Tiger's story is a cautionary tale about prioritizing external validation over internal fulfillment.
Yeah.
He had all the trophies, but lacked, inner peace.
A strong moral compass.
Yeah. It's a powerful reminder that true success involves nurturing not just our talents and our bodies, but also our souls.
Right.
Our inner selves.
And that brings us to another fascinating concept the Holiday explores, the idea of enough.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He challenges this modern obsession with more.
Oh, yeah?
More money, more possessions, more achievements. He argues that it's a recipe for dissatisfaction and anxiety.
It's like we're on this endless treadmill, always striving for the next thing, never feeling content with what we have.
Exactly. And he uses the example of John Stuart Mill,
Okay.
a brilliant philosopher who had a mental breakdown in his early 20s.
Really?
After a lifetime of intense intellectual striving.
Wait, so even achieving, like, incredible things doesn't guarantee happiness?
It's a sobering thought. But Mill, he realized that all his achievements, they couldn't fill the void he felt inside.
So where does that leave us? Are we doomed to be unhappy no matter what we achieve?
Well, Holiday suggests that true contentment, it comes from within, from cultivating a sense of enough.
So it's not about having a certain amount of money
Right.
or a certain number of possessions.
No. It's about recognizing the abundance we already have, appreciating the simple joys, and finding satisfaction in the journey. Not just the destination. It doesn't mean we can't strive for things, but it means shifting our focus from a place of lack to a place of gratitude.
Now, that is a powerful concept. And I think it's like especially relevant in today's world.
Yeah.
Where we're constantly bombarded with messages about what we should be buying, achieving, striving for.
Yeah, exactly. It's about finding that inner stillness that allows us to appreciate what we have rather than constantly chasing what we don't. And that leads us to another beautiful path to stillness that Holiday explores.
Great.
Beauty.
Ooh, okay.
So Holiday reminds us of the power of art, nature, and simple everyday wonders to inspire awe and tranquility. He even uses the example of Anne Frank, who even while hiding from the Nazis found solace and beauty in simply looking out her attic window at the sky, the trees, the birds.
Oh, wow. That's incredible.
It shows how powerful beauty can be even in the darkest of times.
Yeah.
And it's not just about, grand landscapes or masterpieces of art. Holiday, he encourages us to find beauty in the everyday, in the mundane, in the often overlooked details of our surroundings.
Like the way the light filters through the leaves.
Yeah.
The sound of rain on the roof.
Yeah.
The laughter of a child. Like these small moments of beauty, they can be incredibly grounding, reminding us of the goodness that exists in the world, no matter what challenges we might be facing.
Exactly. It's about cultivating a sense of wonder and appreciation for the simple gifts that life offers and allowing ourselves to be moved by the beauty that surrounds us.
It really is. Okay, so that leads us to a topic that's often debated, I guess.
Okay.
The role of faith and spirituality in finding stillness.
Yeah.
So Holiday acknowledges the common thread of belief in a higher power that runs through many philosophical and religious traditions.
Right.
Now, he doesn't advocate for any specific religion.
Right.
But he highlights the power of faith to provide comfort, guidance, and a sense of purpose, particularly during times of adversity. He even points out the 12-step program, which encourages belief in a higher power as we understand him, recognizing that the specific form of faith is less important than the act of surrendering to something greater than ourselves.
It's about that surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just about finding comfort either. Holiday suggests that faith can also be a source of strength, resilience, moral grounding. It can help us to make sense of the world, to find meaning in our experiences, and to connect with something larger than ourselves.
That'll be really powerful.
It is. It's a personal journey, of course.
Yeah.
And not everyone finds solace in religion. But for those who do, faith can be a powerful tool for cultivating inner peace and finding stillness in the midst of, life's storms.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a reminder that there's more to life than just our own individual experiences, and that connecting with a sense of spirituality, whatever form that might take, can offer a profound sense of purpose and belonging.
Yeah. And that brings us to another important aspect of finding stillness, the power of connection and relationships.
Okay. Now, this is where I think things get really interesting, because we often associate stillness with being alone, with retreating from the world.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. But Holiday, he emphasizes that human connection, love, and relationships, they're vital for our well-being.
Yeah.
He points out that many historical figures who achieved great things, they did so with the support of their partners.
Oh, yeah.
Think about people like Angela Merkel or Gertrude Stein, Their relationships, they were essential to their success.
So it's not about isolating ourselves.
No, it's about recognizing that we're not meant to go through life alone, Having loving and supportive relationships, it gives us a sense of belonging, security, purpose. And that can make it so much easier to find that inner peace, that stillness.
It's like having a safe haven.
Yeah.
A place where we can be ourselves.
Right.
And draw strength for the people who love us.
And that leads us to this really poignant example that Holiday shares about the power of love and purpose to provide stillness.
Okay.
Even in the face of death.
Okay.
The story of Brian Sweeney.
Okay, I'm ready for this one.
So on September 11th, 2001, Brian Sweeney was a passenger on United Airlines Flight 175.
Yeah.
He knew he was facing certain death as the plane headed toward the World Trade Center.
Right.
But in his final moments, he called his wife and left this voicemail message
Yeah.
filled with love and serenity.
I remember hearing about that. It was so moving.
He told her, I want you to know that I absolutely love you. I want you to do good, have good times. Same with my parents. I'll see you when you get there.
It's hard to imagine the terror he must have been feeling.
Right.
Yet his voice was, like, so calm and steady.
It's a testament to the power of love and purpose, to transcend even, the most harrowing of circumstances.
It's a reminder that even in the face of death, there can be this sense of peace.
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah.
Even joy in knowing that we've lived a life filled with meaning, with connection.
And that leads us to one final, awe-inspiring example that Holiday uses to illustrate our interconnectedness.
Okay.
The story of astronaut Edgar Mitchell.
I'm guessing this is where things get cosmic.
You got it. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man to walk on the moon, had this profound experience while returning to Earth, looking back at our planet from space. He was struck by this sense of awe and a realization of the interconnectedness of all things.
He talked about this feeling of global consciousness.
Yeah.
Like this understanding that we're all part of one, intricate web of life.
It's a perspective that can shift our entire worldview,
Right.
making our individual worries and concerns seem, well, small in comparison to the grandeur of the universe.
It's a reminder that we're all connected.
Yeah.
Not just to each other, but to every living thing, to the planet, to the cosmos itself.
Yeah.
And that realization, it can bring a sense of peace, humility, a deep appreciation for the miracle of existence.
Yeah.
It can inspire us to live with greater purpose, to care for our planet, and to treat each other with kindness and compassion, knowing that we're all on this journey together.
It's a beautiful thought.
It is. Wow. That's a powerful way to end this part of our deep dive.
But there's more to come.
Oh, there is.
Next, we'll explore some practical strategies for cultivating stillness in your own life. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So far, we've explored stillness in high-stakes situations in the art world, even in outer space.
Right. It's been a journey.
But now let's bring things down to earth a bit and talk about how we can actually cultivate this kind of elusive stillness in our, everyday lives.
Yeah, that's the beauty of Holiday's book. He doesn't just leave us with these, grand concepts. He gives us tangible tools to work with.
Okay, good. I like tools.
Yeah, and one of the most surprising tools he explores is routine, the power of routine.
Now, when I think of routine, I think of, rigidity.
Yeah.
Being stuck in a rut.
Right.
How can that lead to stillness?
I know, it seems counterintuitive, right?
It does.
But think about it this way. Establishing a consistent rhythm in our lives can actually free up mental space.
Okay.
And create a sense of calm.
Yeah.
Holiday, he uses the example of Fred Rogers.
Oh, Mr. Rogers.
Who had a very structured morning routine. He woke up at 5 a.m., spent time in prayer and reflection, swam laps, even sang a specific hymn as he jumped into the pool.
Okay. So maybe I don't need to be singing hymns at dawn, but I get the point. Creating that structure, it can help set the tone for the day.
Right.
Allowing you to approach things with a clear and focused mind.
Exactly. It's like setting the stage for a performance. You wouldn't want to walk onto a stage without knowing your lines or where the props are.
Yeah.
Routine can be that preparation mentally and emotionally, and it doesn't have to be rigid or complicated.
Right.
It's about finding what works for you. Whether it's a morning meditation, a walk in nature, or simply making your bed every day.
Yeah, it's about creating those little anchors of consistency. That can ground us in the midst of all the, the chaos.
Yeah.
And it's not just for mornings either. I mean, Holiday talks about the routines of athletes, like Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
Who has very specific pregame rituals.
And these routines, they're not about superstition.
Right.
They're about creating this sense of control, of focus.
Yeah.
In these high pressure environments.
Right.
By automating certain actions, these athletes, they free up their minds to concentrate on the task at hand.
It's like building a foundation for performance, a series of actions that become so ingrained. They no longer require conscious thought.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the power of routine. It streamlines our actions, reduces decision fatigue, and creates that sense of stability.
Right.
That makes it easier to access that inner stillness.
Okay. So we've got routine as one tool. What else does Holiday suggest?
Well, he takes a rather drastic turn,
Uh-oh.
and he encourages us to get rid of our stuff.
Wait, is this where we all become minimalists?
Not necessarily, but it's about, challenging our attachment to material possessions
Yeah.
and how they can clutter, not just our homes, but also our minds. He tells this great story from Epictetus about an iron lamp that the philosopher cherished.
Okay.
But when it was stolen, Epictetus realized, he'd become too attached.
Hmm.
And that true freedom came from detaching
Yeah.
himself from things, from stuff.
It's a good reminder. Like, our stuff can own us if we're not careful.
It really can.
Right? The more we accumulate, the more we have to maintain, protect, insure. It's exhausting.
Exactly. Holiday encourages us to question those attachments, to simplify our lives, and to focus on experiences and relationships rather than material things.
Yeah, I mean, it's not about depriving ourselves, but it's about being mindful of what we bring into our lives.
Yeah.
Making sure our possessions are serving us, not the other way around.
Exactly. It's about finding that freedom that comes from letting go of the need to constantly, acquire and upgrade.
Yeah, it's very American, isn't it?
And that can be so liberating.
Yeah. Okay, so we've decluttered our homes, our minds. What's the next step on this journey to stillness?
Well, it might seem obvious, but Holiday reminds us of the importance of seeking solitude.
You mean like being alone?
Exactly. It's about carving out time for ourselves, away from the distractions and demands of daily life. To simply be. He uses this great example of Leonardo da Vinci, who wrote a fable about a stone that yearned to be with other stones, only to find itself like crushed and miserable in this big pile.
Yeah.
And the stone realized that true happiness, it lay in embracing its own unique nature and finding peace in solitude.
It's a reminder that we all need time to recharge, to reconnect with ourselves.
Yeah.
And to simply be present with our own, thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, we're constantly bombarded with stimuli.
Right.
From social media to news to, the demands of work and family. It can be so difficult to find that quiet space within ourselves where we can simply be.
So how do we create that space?
Well, Holiday encourages us to carve out time each day, even if it's just for a few minutes, to disconnect from the outside world and reconnect with ourselves. Okay.
It could be through meditation, journaling, taking a walk in nature, or simply sitting in silence and listening to the sounds around you.
Yeah, it's about creating a sanctuary, a place where we can escape the noise and reconnect with our inner selves.
Exactly. And it's not about, becoming a hermit or isolating ourselves from the world.
Right.
It's about finding that balance between connection and solitude. Recognizing that both are essential for our well-being.
Okay. So we've got routine, we've decluttered, we're embracing solitude. What else can we do to cultivate stillness?
Well, this next one might be a bit of a wake-up call, especially in our, always-on culture. Holiday talks about the dangers of overwork.
Yeah, that's something I think a lot of us struggle with.
I think so, too. Yeah.
Right. We're constantly pressured to do more, achieve more, be more.
It's a recipe for burnout.
Yeah.
Holiday, he shares the story of Prince Albert, Queen Victoria's husband,
who was known for his relentless work ethic and dedication to duty. Sadly, he pushed himself to the point of exhaustion, which contributed to his early death at the age of 42.
It's a tragic example of how our drive to succeed, it can sometimes blind us to the importance of taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. And it's not just a historical anecdote. We see it all the time today. Holiday, he even mentions the Japanese term karoshi, which translates to death from overwork.
It's a sobering reminder that our health and well-being, those are our most valuable assets.
Absolutely. Holiday, he encourages us to be mindful of our energy levels, prioritize rest and recovery, and recognize that sometimes the most productive thing we can do is to step away from work and recharge.
It's about finding that sustainable rhythm in our lives, that balance between work and rest that allows us to operate at our best without, sacrificing our health and well-being.
It's about finding that stillness within our work lives, knowing when to push forward and when to pull back.
Okay, so we're working on setting boundaries, prioritizing rest. What about sleep?
Sleep. Holiday, he describes it as stillness itself. We often think of sleep as this passive state.
Right.
But he argues that it's an active process of restoration and rejuvenation.
Yeah.
essential for both our physical and mental health.
I like that reframing. Sleep as stillness makes it seem more important,
Right.
more purposeful.
Exactly. He even tells a story of a Zen master who spent a month sleeping.
A month.
Before delivering this important lecture.
Okay, committed.
Highlighting the power of sleep to clarify the mind.
Yeah. So it's not just about getting enough sleep. It's about seeing sleep as this essential practice, a time for our minds and bodies to reset and recharge.
Exactly. And yet, in our fast-paced world, sleep is often the first thing we sacrifice.
Right.
We stay up late working, scrolling through social media, convincing ourselves we can catch up later. But, chronic sleep deprivation, it can have serious consequences.
Oh, yeah.
For our health, our mood, our ability to think clearly.
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the antidote? How do we prioritize sleep in a world that's constantly demanding our attention?
Well, Holiday encourages us to establish a consistent sleep routine.
Okay.
Create a relaxing bedtime ritual.
Yeah.
And treat sleep as a sacred practice.
It's about creating that space.
Yeah.
For deep rest.
Yeah.
And allowing ourselves to fully surrender to it.
Exactly. It's about honoring our need for sleep.
Yeah.
And recognizing that it's not a sign of weakness or laziness, but an essential ingredient for a well-lived life.
Yeah. I like that. Okay. So we've rested, we're recharged. What's next on this journey to stillness?
Well, now that we've, taken care of the basics, we need to be wary of what Holiday calls escapism.
Okay, what does he mean by that?
He's talking about those tempting distractions.
Oh, yeah. Lots of those around.
That pull us away from the present moment and prevent us from engaging fully with our life. He uses the example of John Fante, a talented writer who, after experiencing a setback, turned to drinking and golf.
Classic.
To numb his pain and avoid the hard work of writing.
Yeah, so it's not that leisure and relaxation are bad. It's about our intentions.
Exactly.
Right, are we using these activities to, nourish ourselves, or are we just trying to escape something?
Exactly. It's about finding that balance between, engaging with the world and giving ourselves permission to step back. And recharge without falling into the trap of using those activities to, avoid dealing with difficult emotions or challenges.
It's like the difference between taking a break and running away.
Exactly. Holiday, he encourages us to be mindful of our intentions and to ask ourselves whether our chosen activities are truly nourishing us or simply providing a temporary distraction.
So how do we know if we're engaging in healthy leisure or falling into escapism?
It's about honesty and self-awareness. Are these activities bringing you joy, challenge, or growth? Or are they simply a way to numb yourself and avoid dealing with what's really going on?
It's a good question to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
And it leads to what I think is one of the most powerful messages in Holiday's book.
Okay.
The importance of aligning our actions with our values.
He calls it the courage to act.
Hmm.
And it's a reminder that stillness isn't about passivity. It's about finding the strength to do what's right, to stand up for what we believe in, to act in accordance with our values.
I love that because it challenges the idea that stillness equals inaction.
Exactly. Holiday uses the example of a character from Albert Camus' novel The Fall, a man named Clemence, who is haunted by his inaction in this moment when he could have saved a drowning woman.
Oh, wow.
So it's about the courage to act when it matters, even when it's difficult.
Yeah.
Holiday contrasts Clemence's inaction with the story of Anne du Formental, a philosopher who died heroically while saving 2 children from drowning. It's a powerful example of what it means to live a life of courage and integrity.
Yeah, it's a reminder that stillness isn't about retreating from the world. It's about finding that inner strength to engage with it in a meaningful and impactful way.
Exactly. It's about using our stillness to fuel our courage, to act with intention and to make a positive difference in the world.
Wow. This is giving me a lot to think about.
And there's one final act of stillness that Holiday brings us to, facing our own mortality.
Okay, this is where things get really deep.
It's about embracing the entirety of our existence, from birth to death, and finding a way to live each day with intention, with purpose, and a deep appreciation for the gift of life.
So it's not about fearing death, but about accepting it as like a natural part of life.
Exactly. Holiday shares the stories of these 3 great figures from history, Antoninus Pius, Buddha, and Epicurus. all of whom, faced their deaths with this sense of calm and wisdom.
And what can we learn from them?
Well, Antoninus Pius, on his deathbed, uttered the word equanimitas, which means equanimity or mental calmness.
So even in the face of death, it's about maintaining that sense of inner peace.
Exactly. Buddha, in his final moments, he reminded his followers that, all individual things pass away, and encouraged them to seek liberation through practice.
Yeah, it's a reminder of the impermanence of life and the importance of focusing on what truly matters.
And Epicurus, despite suffering immense physical pain, he wrote a letter to his friends expressing joy and gratitude for the life he had lived.
That's amazing. Even in the face of suffering, he found a way to embrace the beauty of life.
These stories, they offer such a profound perspective on the inevitability of death and the importance of living a life that is aligned with our values, knowing that our time on this earth is precious and fleeting.
It's a reminder that true stillness isn't just about finding peace in the present moment.
Yeah.
It's about embracing the entirety of our existence from beginning to end.
Yeah.
And living each day with intention and gratitude.
And before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I wanted to share an anecdote from Holiday's own life that I found really relatable. He talks about this simple afternoon spent working on his farm in Texas.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I'm not exactly a farm girl myself, but I'm all about finding stillness in unexpected places.
Right. So Holiday, he describes the physicality of the work, mending fences, moving hay, herding this wayward bull, and how the focus required for these tasks brought him this sense of calm and presence.
It's like how some people find peace in gardening or doing the dishes.
Exactly. It's about finding those moments in our everyday lives where we can disconnect from the mental chatter and reconnect with the simple grounding reality of our physical existence.
Yeah, so stillness isn't always about like sitting quietly in a room.
Exactly. It can be found in the rhythm of physical work, in the connection with nature, in the satisfaction of a job well done.
It's about being fully present in whatever we're doing, whether it's, writing a novel or herding a bull.
And that's a great segue into the final part of our deep dive, where we'll, distill all of this wisdom into some key takeaways and leave you with some final thoughts to ponder.
Okay, so after all that, from ancient philosophers to astronauts, from high-stakes decisions to the simple act of raking leaves, where do we land?
It's been quite a journey.
What's the essence of stillness is the key? What should we be walking away with?
You're right. It's about more than just finding a quiet corner to meditate.
Yeah.
It's about a way of being, a perspective that can, transform how we approach, well, everything in life.
Okay, so let's try to break it down. Like, what are some key takeaways for our listeners?
Okay, first, and this might be the biggest aha moment for some, stillness isn't about becoming passive or withdrawing from the world. It's about feigning that inner calm and clarity that helps us engage with life more fully.
Yeah.
To make better decisions, to connect more deeply with ourselves and others, to find joy even when things are tough.
Right. It's like that idea we talked about with JFK.
Yeah.
His stillness wasn't about like freezing up. It was about creating the mental space to make a wise life-saving choice.
Exactly. And second, stillness, it's a practice, not a destination.
Okay.
It's not like you achieve ultimate stillness and then you're done.
Right.
It's about making those small intentional choices each day to cultivate it.
So it's like building a muscle. The more we practice those techniques, meditation, journaling, even just taking a few conscious breaths, the stronger our stillness muscle becomes.
I like that analogy. And third, and this is crucial, stillness, it's available to everyone. It's not just for, monks or people who live in the woods. It's a resource we can tap into anytime, anywhere, to bring more peace and purpose into our lives.
So no matter how busy or chaotic our lives are, we can all find those moments of stillness.
Absolutely. It's about making those choices, prioritizing those practices, even when it, feels like there's no time.
Right.
Because the truth is, finding stillness, it's not about adding something to your to-do list. It's about, shifting your perspective, changing how you approach everything you already do.
Okay, I'm feeling inspired. But I also know our listeners are probably thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I start?
Start small.
Okay.
Choose one thing that resonates with you from everything we've discussed, whether it's, setting a morning routine, trying a 5-minute meditation, or simply making a conscious effort to, find beauty in your everyday life.
Yeah.
And be patient with yourself.
Yeah. Good advice.
It's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's about making those small shifts that over time can lead to profound changes in how you feel, how you think, how you live.
Yeah. I love that. It's a journey.
And remember, stillness isn't about escaping, life's challenges. It's about finding the strength and the clarity to navigate them with grace
Yeah.
and wisdom.
It's like equipping ourselves with this superpower
Yeah.
that can help us, face whatever comes our way
Yeah.
with more resilience and peace.
Beautifully put. So as we wrap up our deep dive into stillness is the key, what stands out to you? What will you take away from this?
I think I'm left with this thought-provoking question. Could stillness actually be the secret weapon for not just surviving, but thriving in today's world?
It's a question worth pondering,
Yeah.
and I encourage you to explore it in your own life, Seek out those moments of stillness. Experiment with the practices we've discussed and see what unfolds.
And until next time, embrace the stillness.